صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
That one. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم، أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر أذمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور، وهو الشهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه، وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من 1000 شهر. فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليك، من علي بفقاك رقبتي من النار، في من تمن عليه وأدخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم رب شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن وافترضت على عبادك فيه الصيام، ارزقني حج بيتك الحرام في هذا العام وفي كل عام، واغفر لي الذنوب العظام فإنه لا يغفرها غيرك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك، وأنت مسدد للثواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلكة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك ولم يكن له ولي من الذل وكبره تكبيرا. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه ولا شبيح له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما، إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير مع حاجة إليه عظيما، وغناك عنه قديم وهو عندي كثير وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي وتجاوزك عن خطيعتي وسفحك عن ظلمي وسترك على قبيح عملي وحلمك عن كثير جرمي عندما كان من خطائي وعمدي أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك وعريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك، فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستعنسا لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك، فإن عبت عني عتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي عبت عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد اللعيم منك عليه. يا ربي إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأن لي التطول عليك، فلم يمنعك ذلك من رحمتي لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك، فارحم عبدك الجاحل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالك الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه، وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالك الإسباه ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى، تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادل، ولا شبيه يشاكل، ولا ظهير يعاذد، قهر بعزتها العزة وتواضع لعظمته العظمى، فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه، ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. فكم من موهبة حنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، وبهجة مونقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه حامدا واذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد الساعل ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويدع المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلفه آخرين. والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الحاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع هاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وسفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم صل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووسي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل على سبط الرحمة وإمام الهدى الحسن والحسين سيد شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الحادي المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي الأمر القائم المعمل والعدل المنتظر وخفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم برحمتك في الصالحين فأدخلنا وفي عليين فارفعنا وبكأس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا ومن الحور العين وبرحمتك فزوجنا ومن الولدان المخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فأكرمنا ومن ثمار الجنة ولحوم الطير فأطعمنا ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فألبسنا وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام وقتلا في سبيلك فوفق لنا وصالح الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا وبراءة من النار فاكتب لنا وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا وفي عذابك وحوانك فلا تبتلنا ومن الزقوم والضريع فلا تطعمنا ومع الشياطين فلا تجعلنا وفي النار على وجوهنا فلا تكببنا ومن ثياب النار وسرابيل القطران فلا تلبسنا ومن كل سوء يا لا إله إلا أنت بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا. اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحكيم من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عنهم سيئاتهم وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خيري وعافية وتوسع في رزقي وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل بي غيري. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعت أو ذنب تعذبني عليه. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور. اللهم أغن كل فقير. اللهم أشبع كل جائع. اللهم اكس كل عريان. اللهم اقض دين كل مدين. اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب. اللهم رد كل غريب. اللهم فك كل أسير. اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين. اللهم اشف كل مريض. اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك. اللهم اقض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير.
So for tonight's Quran reflection, if you can welcome Dr. Wahid Amin with a salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'd like to take this opportunity to start by congratulating you all on the start of this blessed month. May Allah give us tawfiq to benefit from it, and may He accept our fasting. As I happen to be the first speaker in this series of Quranic reflections, and given that it is the start of Ramadan, it is only befitting that I use this opportunity to reflect on what fasting means to me personally. We all know that fasting is not just a physical act of abstaining from food and drink. It is a spiritual practice that has the potential to transform us, both in our relationship with Allah, ourselves, and those around us. Ramadan is not simply about controlling my physical appetites. It is about using this time to nourish my soul, to awaken my spiritual consciousness. It is about strengthening my relationship with Allah. In this month, when my body may feel weaker, I remind myself that my soul should grow stronger. My body may sleep less, but is my soul more awake? This is the deeper purpose of fasting, to cultivate an awareness of our Creator that transcends the mere act of hunger and thirst. The Quran calls us to fast not just as a ritual, but to develop taqwa, which is like a spiritual tuning in that allows us to feel the presence of Allah in our daily lives. Allah says in verse 183 of Surah Al-Baqarah, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who believe, ascribed for you is the fasting as it was decreed upon those before you, that you may become more conscious of Him. By severing the connection we have with our bodies, we strive to connect with the one who is bodiless, the one who does not rest or sleep, the one who is not nourished or fed, yet is the all-powerful, the mighty and the everlasting. As we get nearer to Allah, we start to resemble His qualities and beautiful names. Fasting is that tool that brings us closer to righteousness, that purifies our hearts and increases our awareness of Allah. As we fast, we learn not only to control what enters our bodies, but also to exercise control over our speech and our actions. Ramadan controls what we put into our mouths, but do I have the self-mastery to control what comes out of my mouth? Fasting, therefore, challenges me not only to control my physical appetites, but the appetites of my nafs, my emotions, my anger, my temptations, my frustrations, and my impatience. When I am hungry and tired, I realize I am more irritable and more susceptible to anger and frustration. It's as if Allah has put me on the battlefield in a war against my greatest enemy, my own ego. As I fast, I am reminded that Ramadan is a battle against myself. The Prophet, peace be upon him, reminded us that fasting is not merely about abstaining from food, but also idle talk, from backbiting, and any form of speech that distances us from Allah. Ramadan is also that time for forgiveness. However, as I reflect on this, I realize that part of my own spiritual growth in this month involves forgiving myself. Psychologically, when we hold on to guilt, shame, and regret for past actions, we can become weighed down by our past selves. This past self casts a shadow over my present self, and there is a tussle between a part of me that wants to grow, that wants to move forward, and a part of me that wants to drag me down. Guilt, when not addressed, can trap us in a cycle of self-punishment, making us feel unworthy people, making us feel unworthy of forgiveness and growth. Shame deepens this burden, causing me to believe that I am intrinsically flawed, incapable of change. In Islam, our spiritual masters call this shadow self the nafsul lawama, the self that is constantly blaming. But if I am to truly move forward in my spiritual journey, as this month invites me to do so, I must learn to forgive myself. The Quran reminds us that Allah's mercy is vast and all-encompassing. In verse 53 of Surah Al-Zumar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. Say, O my servants who have harmed yourselves, by your own actions, do not despair of Allah's mercy. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins. He is the forgiving and the merciful. Now I ask myself this question. If Allah is willing to forgive all of my sins, why then should I punish myself? Self-forgiveness is crucial. For if I remain bound by guilt and shame, I cannot fully embrace the mercy and forgiveness that Allah is offering me. Psychologically, if I do not forgive myself, I remain stuck in the past, unable to move forward or grow spiritually. By forgiving myself, I create space for healing and growth. In our spiritual journeys, therefore, fasting can be seen as a kind of spiritual suffering, a necessary purification that allows us to be transformed. By fasting, we abstain from all those things which our legal tradition tells us that we must abstain from. But in essence, the real meaning of fasting is to abstain from your own nafs. We let go of our old selves, our past mistakes, and our guilt. This is the hardest thing to do because it is like death. It is not without good reason that the blessed Prophet said that the greater jihad is against the nafs, because you are literally killing a part of yourself you have identified yourself with. But it is through this sacrifice that we must move closer to Allah, embracing a new beginning, a fresh opportunity to grow in His mercy, as this month affords us that opportunity. Through fasting, I am not just giving up food, I am giving up my attachment to the worldly desires, the ego, and to distractions. Fasting allows me to die to my lower self and be reborn into an elevated state, more aware of my Creator. This is the death to the ego. This death to the ego is what allows me to grow, to be nourished by something far greater than food, the presence of Allah. It was in the month of Ramadan that the Prophet and his companions gained victory at the Battle of Badr. They were in war, fighting with their bodies, but they were fasting, fighting against their inner desires. In yansurkumullah fala ghaliba lakum. If Allah gives you help, no one will defeat you. So we ask Allah that may this Ramadan be a time of spiritual renewal for all of us, a time to strengthen our faith, cleanse our hearts, and find true peace in Allah's mercy. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wahid, and Abbas as well for the dua recitation. Thank you. So first of all, Ramazan Mubarak to all of you. The T4C team is really excited to spend another month of Ramadan with all of you, inshallah. Before I call Sheikh to deliver his talk, just a few housekeeping rules. As you all already know, there's no food or drink that's allowed in the chapel. And if you can please request you all to make sure you put your shoes in the shoe room. We need the corridor to be left empty from any obstructions. Also, the bathrooms on the ground floor are under refurbishment at the moment, so they're out of use. Instead, you can use the bathrooms on the first floor using the staircase that's at the end of the corridor by the dining room. And for that reason, also, the children will need to be accompanied by an adult whenever they need to use the washroom. If you require lift access or baby changing facilities, then please ask one of the members of the T4C team and we'll be happy to help you. Also, the conference room is available for parents with young children, and there will be an audio relay as well, so you'll be able to follow the talk. Lastly, if I can please request you all to move forward and make sure that both paths on the gents and ladies side are kept clear, so people can come in and out without having to step over everybody. So if I can please ask you all to move forward and leave the path clear. Thank you very much. Thank you. And if you can please all welcome Sheikh Tajri with
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على Now, Zina just mentioned if you could all come forward. I'm going to make a further request because of the fact that throughout tonight's talk or presentation or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to be using the screen quite extensively. So for your benefit and also those people who are tucked behind the pillars and can't see the screen well enough, if you can move forward and move in at an angle whereby you can see the screen, that will be fantastic. So we're going to be working together through this presentation to devise for ourselves at the beginning of this holy month a personal development plan for this month and inshallah in this month and going forward from then as well. So I thought it most befitting as we're entering the month to take some lessons from the sermon of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam in what he said when introducing the month. So we know at the end of the month of Sha'ban, he turned to the people in his sermon and he said, Ayyuhan nas, innahu qad aqbala ilaykum shahrullahi bil barakati wal rahmati wal maghfirah. O people, the month of Allah has approached you with blessings and mercy and forgiveness. Shahrun huwa inda Allah afdalu shuhur. It's the month which in the eyes of Allah is the best of months. وَأَيَّامُهُ أَفْضَلُ الْأَيَّامِ وَلَيَالِيهِ أَفْضَلُ اللَّيَالِي وَسَاعَاتُهُ أَفْضَلُ السَّاعَاتِ. Its days are the best of days. Its nights are the best of nights. Its hours are the best of hours. هُوَ شَهْرٌ. It is that month دُعِيتُمْ فِيهِ إِلَىٰ ضِيَافَةِ اللَّهِ, in which you have been invited to the hospitality of Allah. وَجُعِلْتُمْ فِيهِ مِنْ أَهْلِ كَرَامَةِ اللَّهِ. You have been made in those who are honored by Allah. So if there was any month that was a better time for change, I thought, plug that in, yeah? Then it's this month, which is the best month if we're planning to get change. But look at what the Prophet says. Once he's welcomed in the month with those few words, straight away he goes on to not just speaking about abstract concepts of mercy and forgiveness. He says, أَنفَاسُكُمْ فِيهِ تَسْبِيحٌ. Breathing is a glorification of Allah. Even sleeping, it's an action. وَنَوْمُكُمْ فِيهِ عِبَادَةٌ. Your sleep is a worship. عَمَلُكُمْ فِيهِ مَقْبُولٌ. Your deeds in it are accepted. وَدُعَاؤُكُمْ. Your supplication is mustajab. It is responded to, is answered. So straight away after talking about mercy, forgiveness, there's doing things, there's things to be done. It's not just something that we sit back and let walk past us. So I took the liberty of going through the whole sermon and picking out the salient action points that the Prophet talks about in his sermon. So, number one, he says straight after this part, he encourages the people to make supplication for success in this month. Ad-du'a lit-tawfiq. Number two, of course, he talks about fasting in this month. It's an action. He speaks about more recitation of the Quran in this month. Giving charity to orphans and those who are in need in this month. Not that we shouldn't be doing these things anyway, but the Prophet, when he welcomes this month, in that particular sermon, has emphasized on these few things. I'm only going to mention 10 here. I'm sure if someone else goes through the sermon, you might be able to pick out a few more. Respecting the elders and being compassionate towards youngsters. Number 6, not that we shouldn't be always connected to our near of kin and our relatives, but in this month, if anyone has relationships with their kinfolk which are strained, this is the month in which we should concentrate more on them. Controlling the tongue. Controlling the tongue, it's an action. Seeking forgiveness and repentance, al-istighfar wa tawbah in this month. Prolonging the prostration. Of course, we prostrate every day, but prolonging that is mentioned by the Prophet in welcoming in this month. The last one I'm going to mention, facilitating opening or breaking of someone else's fast. Of course, what comes to my mind is, but how do I bring people together? Do I invite them all out to a restaurant because my house is pretty small? I have 20 people, I can't fit them in. The Prophet has nothing to do with that. Iftar as-sa'im, breaking someone's fast, the Prophet says in the sermon, وَلَوْ بِشِقِّ تُمْرَةٍ, even if it's with split half of a date, وَلَوْ بِشِرْبَةٍ مِّن مَّاءٍ, and even if it's with one sip of water, that's all is required. So again, if someone goes through the sermon, they might find other action points as well. I'm just picking on these here because of what we're about to do next. Right, so what we're about to do together in this session is to make a personal development plan, which will take us through the month, now that we're at the beginning of it, and hopefully beyond that month, beyond this month as well. But the personal development plan, there's 3 aspects to it. If you read what a personal development plan is, there's 3 things here. 1, it's personal. 2, it's to do with personal development or self-development, and there's a plan involved. So it's not that we're going to sit back and let the month pass us. That's not going to be what's happening. So it's personal. What does that mean? It's I'm looking at myself. It's not what the Holy Prophet wanted to do in this holy month. It's not what your friends or the people sitting next to you aim to do in this month. It's not what your family need to develop in themselves in this month. And I can try and piggyback off there. It's personal. So this is going to be for each and every one of us as individuals. The plan we're going to make for ourselves to improve or to develop is personal. That means we're going to be looking at our own strengths and our own weaknesses. What strengths do I have that I can consolidate? What weaknesses do I have that I can improve on? And therefore, development, personal development. I don't want to pick on people. I actually do like doing that. But if anyone wants to volunteer and tell me what they understand by development, on a self-development, not developing city and all that. What's self-development? What does someone understand by that? Anyone, before I do pick on someone. Improving on something, yes? Very specific, manifesting more names of Allah. So that's very specific. What does that mean? What's happening here? How am I developing? What does development mean? I'm looking for one word. I'm not sure if... Say someone? Yeah. You change your habits. What does that do to you? Growth. So it's growth, changing habits, manifesting something I don't manifest for the time being. What I'm doing throughout all of these things, I am becoming something that I am not at the moment. So all those action points we saw, fasting, praying, prolonging the sajda, giving charity, helping someone break their fast, they're all actions. They're not my aim. That's not development. Until those actions make me, someone said growth, develop, change into something I'm not right now. I need to, for example, if I'm taking to the physical, I need to build my quads because they're not strong enough. So I begin cycling once a week, twice a week. Cycling was not the aim. That was the tool I was using, the process I was using in order to get stronger quads. That's the development part. But I cannot develop, I cannot change, I cannot grow, I cannot manifest something I don't manifest unless I take the vehicle of those deeds and actions. In the very first screen, you might have noticed, I mentioned in that same sermon, the Prophet has one line. He says, Ayyuhan nas, O people, Inna anfusakum marhunatun bi'a'malikum. Indeed, your souls are at the ransom of your deeds. So you want to, your anfus, yourselves and your souls are held at ransom to your deeds. What you do is going to make that development. Deeds should lead to that becoming. We heard just now earlier on about the fasting. It's not just staying hungry, but something has to change from within. So we're looking at personal, we're looking at development. Now at this stage is where your work comes into it. Give me a second. I'm going to call up two sidekicks. Jawad, if you can come up and... Okay, come up by the way, but before these go out, this is a template for a personal development plan for this month. Ideally, I would like you all to have one and we're going to work through it together. If you're planning to leave it behind in the chapel here when you go out, please don't take one. If you're planning to make paper airplanes out of it, please don't take one. If you're planning to use it as a template to develop, then yes, please take one. So Jawad, give out to the guys, please. And also, the message did go out, by the way, that please bring your biros with you, but I know not everyone would have read that message, so I've got a few pens for those who don't have pens with them. My niece Sajida wanted to shout out, so Sajida, can you come out here and take these and help distribute for the... You don't have to blush, you can just give them out without blushing. So, when you receive these A4 sheets, fold them in half, so only the top half, the top window, shows in front of you. Here's when you're going to need your pen. So like I said, I've got a few pens here for those who've forgotten theirs or haven't rolled theirs or didn't see the WhatsApp message. I need my sidekicks back quickly, or I can pick more. I don't know. Imran, come. Go see those people who don't have pens and... For those of you who go to the end of the journey and make your plan, you can get the pen free with it as well and take it home with you as well if you... Hostage or at ransom. Rahan is the ransom paid. Marhoon is the one who's held at ransom. So now, as you receive your A4 papers, fold them in half so only the top window is showing. There's a line going right through the middle. Fold it in half so only the top big window is showing. So now you know what personal means in the PDP, personal development plan. You know what development means. So at this point, forget who's sitting next to you, forget your brothers, your friends, your dads, your cousins, whoever's there. We're going to take 5 minutes to introspect and look at what are my strengths and weaknesses in that top window. Jot down what comes to your mind. What do you want to develop in this holy month, in this time for change? There you go again, Zina, time for change. Anyone else needs pens? Oh, you know, you had all of them. There's some here. You can take, Joel, you can take it off those guys, the paper airplane guys, and give it to the people who are going to use it. So 5 minutes, in silence if possible, close your eyes if you have to. We think about our own strengths, weaknesses. Where do I want to develop? What do I do? There's some prompts on that top window of what you want to do in this month. Before we move on to the plan part. Okay, we'll give it a couple more minutes before we move on to the planning. So there's a few prompts on that top window to help us think about what we might want to develop. So that's personal and that's development. And of course, the last part of it is the plan. The plan implies there's some sort of goal here to go towards something. There are going to be short-term and long-term steps on the way to that goal. At the end of it, there should be some sort of evaluation to see, did this plan work? Have I developed or not? Of course, a lot of that's going to be your own work. But now you can move to the bottom half or the other half of that sheet of paper. There's 5 or 6 or however many columns there. The first one, we all have to ask ourselves, what is my priority in self-development? Of course, in this holy month. But moreover, why? So my priority is strengthening my quads, for example. But why? In this month where I am invited as a guest of Allah, I have been made amongst the honorable people of Allah. Why am I worried about my quads? If I can tell myself sincerely, of course, that is to stand in prayer more at night time, whatever. Okay, fine. So whatever I put in my personal development idea, I'm asking myself, why? On this life which is going to end in so many years, and I'm going to go 6 foot under, and everything I've done, and not everything I've done, but everything I've become is all that I'm going to take with me. Why have I chosen this part of myself to develop? The second column. Okay, if that's what I want to develop, my quads, for example, I've chosen cycling to help me develop my quad muscles. So what practical actions are going to lead to that development? The third column is kind of related to the first column. Can I really say, okay, if I strengthen my quads and I develop it in that way, and then through that cycling is my action, I'm going to do it, can I evaluate that after X number of cycling rides, X number of miles, have my quads strengthened or not? Is there a way of evaluating this? Of course, consistency is key. If I cycle once every 2 weeks, well, once in 2 weeks, and then once in the third week, and then no times the next month, that's not going to help. I need consistency there. The action I'm thinking about and planning to perform, is there a way I can keep it consistent? We will fill in this table with my own, as an example, my own, it won't be strengthening my quads through cycling, don't worry, it'll be something else. Through this, what resources will I need? Will I need a bicycle? Will I need a road to ride on? What will I need in order to develop in this way? And the last one, okay, once I do strengthen my quads with one 10-mile ride a week, can I go further? After the holy month, can I improve, increase the intensity, increase the frequency maybe? Keeping in mind now, of the 10 points, remember we don't have to use these 10 points, but the 10 points we remember from the Prophet's sermon, it can be other points from the sermon, it can be something which is not in the sermon that you know you're going to make as action points to develop on this path. For example, I'm going to choose for myself charity, the giving of charity. But that is not my choice. It's because in the top window, on that sheet of paper, I've identified something I need to develop. The charity giving is going to be my action tool through which the deed, through which the development happens, or as a result of which the development happens. So let's take giving charity as an example. If I go back to that table, I've identified in myself, for example, that I need to have a more giving heart. I need to be generous. And why, in italics at the bottom? Because I really love stuff in this world. Wealth, health, house. I'm attached to these things, but I need the love of Allah to overcome these temporary things, and I need to detach. I don't want to be attached to these things, so I need to be more giving. That's my area of self-development I've identified, for example. Second column, okay, what can I do to practically help with this? Well, of course, I can give more of my wealth in good and noble causes. If I do that, can I pick a particular benefit that's going to come out of this action? Of course, forcing myself to part with however much I want to part with every so often is going to, forcing myself to do that is gradually going to make me less and less and less attached to it. That's my hypothesis. We'll see at the end whether it works or not. Once I do it over the consistency of this month, we'll see if it's worked or not. And the second point is, once I give charity, hopefully with my other resources of time, of knowledge, of whatever it might be, I can start giving more of that as well. Now, how often will I do it? Consistency is key. Whatever action point you choose. I can't remember which book it was. Maybe it was Atomic Habits, was it? Or one of these books. If you pick an action point to do, you can be sure it's not going to happen and you are not going to do it. Until and unless you associate it with something that you already do and you can't escape. So, my charity giving, I will give X amount every day within the holy month of Ramadan. Okay, but when? I will do it immediately after the Fajr prayer. So something you're doing and you can't escape from, like the Fajr prayer, if I do it, I know immediately after it, I'm going to be doing this. The only way I'm going to skip this and not give to charity is if I miss the Fajr prayer, which of course would be disastrous. So something that you're already doing, going to work, driving, this, that, pick something with which you're going to associate this action, and by that you can ensure or give it more chance of success. What resources will I need, for example, on this one? I might need a charity box, maybe. But of course, we're in 2025. Who has cash with them these days anyway? I'll need the bank details, if you can share them with the time for change. I'll need the bank details. I'll need to identify a worthy cause, be it in Palestine, be it this, be it that. I'll need to identify something so every day after my Fajr prayer, I can maybe take my phone out and whilst I'm still on that prayer mat. Because once I get up, that association is broken. If I watch a movie every day, link it to that, because I know I'm not going to escape from that movie. If I have, well, breakfast we wouldn't say, suhoor maybe in this holy month. If I'm something I know I'm going to do, link it with that, and that's almost giving ourselves more chance of success of this happening. Can I progress this plan? I'm giving £1 every day, for example, £10, £100, 50 pence, whatever it might be, depending on your ability. Can I progress this? And especially after the holy month has finished. Of course, well, I can keep giving after the holy month. Maybe I'm able to slowly, from 50 pence, make it 55 pence. Make it 75 pence. From £10, make it 15 or £12 if it's not a huge jump. From £100, 105, 110. I can increase the amount. I can also look at, as we said before, my other resources. Can I give time somewhere, or to people who might be needing it? So I'll give 3 or 4 minutes before giving so you can fill out these parts of the table, the second part of that page, before there's one more ingredient that the Prophet mentioned in his sermon, without which all of this is going to be failure. So we'll give it 3 or 4 more minutes that you can look at the bottom part of the page and see which actions you can fill in to assist you or assist us with that development goal. Right, so now that hopefully you have some ideas on that table that you can take forward, take home, see how to process them and see how to action them. One ingredient that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam talks about, so he mentioned that association thing on that fourth column, that if you don't have that, that's one secret to making a successful plan. Identify how you can evaluate it to make a successful plan. Do this to make a successful plan. Do that to make a successful plan. One crucial ingredient without no plan, without which no plan will be successful, the Prophet said within that sermon. Fasalullah, he said, ask Allah. Fasalullah rabbakum biniyatin sadiqah wa qulubin tahirah an yuwaffiqakum. Beg, plead to Allah. With, not only plead to Allah, of course, the movement of the heart is what's important. With sincere intentions and pure hearts, that in this month He makes you successful. Without that crucial ingredient, of course, our plans and personal development plans don't have any chance of success. So, on that note, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the beginning of this holy month, and with the blessings of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, who we've mentioned and who we've borrowed from to help us through some ideas in this holy month, to make us successful, that at the end of this month we come out developed. The way the Prophet talks about this month in that sermon, he said the most miserable, the most wretched and unfortunate in this month is the one who comes out on the other side of it not having been forgiven. So this month, where we're at the hospitality of Allah, made the honorable people of Allah, is like, just don't mess it up. You know, it's there for you, just for the taking. So we pray to Allah that we are of those in this holy month through His assistance, of course, and through His tawfiq, who become successful at the end of it. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Zinat's insisting that we have questions, but I'm sure there's not any, are there? Comments, yes, that's better. Any comments? We can take comments. Comment, right? Comment.
A bit more on the start statement, they said that Allah sold and hostage to your deeds, because I think it's a very crucial point.
It's on now. Right, so the phrase is right there at the bottom of the screen, on the bottom right. أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ إِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ مَرْهُونَةٌ بِأَعْمَالِكُم. We know. The question was elaborating on that statement, right? So we know that what we do in this month or outside of this month in terms of deeds, praying, fasting, hajj, reciting the Quran, giving charity, means nothing, zero, zilch, as we heard just earlier on, until and unless, of course, our hearts are engaged in resonating with that. The elongation and the prolonging of the sujood was one of the aspects of, or one of the points that the Prophet mentions in his sermon. I can stay from morning to evening, but if I'm not resonating with that action, what does that action mean to me anyway? If I can have a robot or an AI machine, whatever, to put its head on a tablet for 3 years, nothing's going to happen because that thing hasn't developed through that action. So the action is nothing. However, when I resonate and take my heart through the fasting, through the prolonging of the sajda, through giving charity, when my heart resonates with that, I am changing and developing. When I go to Allah, we know in the hereafter, we don't take anything to Allah. no mal or children, no wealth, no children. إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. The only thing I'm taking to me is the state of my heart. That heart develops not through only the actions as a vehicle with my non-physical self resonating with it. So my soul is, if you like, taken hostage right now, and the only way to release it is through those deeds, but through those deeds with which my heart is resonating, and that helps me become. So we had that wrong way. Oh well, going backwards, can we do it? Oh, not really. We had that deeds, arrows, development. The deeds are not my end goal, but they are what's required for that development. The development, if I become something tomorrow which I'm not today, at the end of the month which I'm not at the beginning of the month, at the end of my life which I'm not at the beginning, I'm going to take that back to Allah. That nafs, that soul is what's going to be judged. What's that hadith we have? إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَىٰ صُوَرِكُمْ وَلَكِنْ يَنْظُرُ إِلَىٰ قُلُوبِكُمْ. Allah is not looking at your physical selves, He's looking at your hearts. But that's all we're going to take back. So that the development of the heart is done through the deeds which are impacted with the heart's resonance. That was hard, man. Comments, we can take comments if there are any. No? Okay, good. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you so much, Sheikh. I'm really gutted you didn't get any hard questions, but anyway, next time maybe. So just a few announcements before we end the program. If anybody would like to recite any du'as in Ramadan or any of the short du'as after Maghrib or Isha, then please contact Muhammed Moti. And that's open to all ages, both ladies and gents. We really appreciate all your kind contributions to our Ramadan programs and iftars, and you can donate at the desk outside or using the QR code or the link that's been shared on the group. We kindly also request you to bring your own water bottles and mugs for each program to avoid unnecessary waste of cups and also do our bit for the environment. Can I request you all to please recite a Surah Fatiha for all those suffering in the world and all our marhumin al-Fatiha. Tomorrow's program will inshallah start at 4:45 with the recitation of a portion of Dua Abu Hamza, Quran reflections, and an interactive Quran discussion by Dr. Shahid Merali. The program will end with Maghrib, Iftar, and Isha Salah. So now in the next 10 minutes, inshallah, by 8:30, we'll inshallah pray Isha Salat, followed by a discussion circle led by Sheikh Hubullah on the shortening of prayers and fasting when traveling. And lastly, we have some food, some butter chicken and rice for sale outside, so if you would like to purchase some on your way out. Thank you.